Hey, what's up guys? Bajheera here. So this video is going to be my 6.2 Arms and Fury Warrior Macros video. Now I know that I've made macros videos in the past, but it seems like a whole lot of people are curious for 6.2 macros in particular, and I have made a few adjustments to my warrior macros since my last video. So I want to share those macros with you in this video today. But before we get started, I do want to say a huge thank you and congratulations to Nick Tompkins for being selected as the winner of our Corsair Strafe keyboard giveaway on the Fury PvP number 17 video. And I wanted to announce that we'll be giving away a Corsair Scimitar MMO gaming mouse on this video as well. So you'll have a really convenient and cool way to bind all these epic warrior macros I'm about to share with you guys. In order to win, just be sure to give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Comment and let me know if you have any unique or special macros that you like to use in World of Warcraft. I want to hear about them. Also, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Guys, we're almost at 300k subs, and I'd love to hit that number by BlizzCon. I think we can do it. And one of the things you can do to help us get there is be sure to share the video with your friends, spread it around, help the video and channel grow. It'd mean a lot to me, and it would give you a chance to win a Corsair Scimitar MMO gaming mouse. Alright guys, with the intro and the giveaway announcement out of the way, let's go ahead and get right down to these macros. So, I'm going to start off in my Fury spec. Normally I'm playing mostly Fury and Arms at this point. I do have probably some leftover macros from when I was playing a little bit of Glad Stance. If I do have any prot-specific macros, I'll probably share those with you guys as well. But my main two specs right now are Arms and Fury. Those are the most competitive PvP specs right now. And those are the ones I'm rolling with. So that's the macros that we're going to be looking at right now. But let's start with Fury. So, rather than going through my keybinds or anything like that, like I sometimes do, if you guys are curious about my keybinds, you can find them. I go over them pretty much in depth in my 6.0.3 Fury video. My keybinds really haven't changed very much over the years, so any binds that you see on this character or otherwise, they're all going to be pretty much the same. What is going to be different for you and across my characters are what I actually have bound there. So rather than talk about my specific keybinds, like I did in another video, I'm going to tell you guys about my macros, and you guys can feel free to plug these macros in wherever you're comfortable with your character. Alright, let's just start right from the top, right from the Bajheera specific macros tab. This is my Battle Shout Battle Stance macro. So what it's going to do for you is it's going to show the tooltip for Battle Shout. It's going to cast Battle Stance. It's going to cancel any sort of Hands of Protection, and I also have an option to cancel Hand of Freedom. You'll notice that I have two little backslashes here. If you only have one, then it'll make that line of the macro active, but if you put another one in there, it'll make it not active. Right now, I'm liking to keep my freedoms. The one reason why you might want to have a cancel Hand of Freedom is so that, for example, if your Paladin Healer or Paladin Friend gives you a Hand of Freedom to get out of like an Ice Nova, you don't want the Mage to just steal the freedom from you, because then it'll make it really hard to catch up to the Mage. So you can cancel the freedom once it gets you out of the Nova if you wanted to, but right now I have that taken out of my macro. Just something to keep in mind. It's like an extra little aspect of this macro that you can use if you want to. It also casts Battle Shout, and then I also have the double backslash here in case I wanted to cast Commanding Shout. So if I was playing with a Hunter, I would go in and I would say, okay, I don't need the Battle Shout because I already have attack power, and I would like to have the Commanding Shout. So you just delete that right there, and then it'll cast Commanding Shout instead. But right now, I want my Battle Shout for if I'm doing BGs or something like that. But yeah, that's the basic layout for the Battle Shout macro, and there's another macro down the line. I can just go show that right now. It's pretty much the exact same thing, except instead of casting Battle Stance, it'll cast Defensive Stance. So this macro right here is the macro I use to set my stances mostly, but whenever I go into a certain stance, it'll also use my corresponding shout that I'm looking for. So that's helpful for just keeping your shouts up while changing stances. I can go back and look at this one right here. This is a simple macro that will cast Bladestorm and cast Sweeping Strikes at the same time. One of the things about this is Sweeping Strikes doesn't necessarily interact with Bladestorm the way it used to. But this is an old macro, and you can even say with AA, because I used to have it do my auto attacks. But right now, Bladestorm does your auto attacks normally, so it's just kind of an obsolete macro, but one of the ones I still have in my macros tab. Alright, this is a macro that I get asked about fairly often. This is just a very, very simple set your focus macro to a particular target in the arena by attaching the set focus command to an ability that you're going to be pressing very often. So in Fury, I'm pressing Bloodthirst a lot. And the reason why I have this always set is because there's advantages and disadvantages to this macro. The advantage of this macro is that pretty much all the time, even if the healer goes in stealth and comes back out of stealth, you're going to be able to set your focus back to the druid or the priest healer very, very easily. The downside of this is that you're pretty much committing to only having a particular guy on focus the entire arena. So if you ever wanted to change your focus, this macro would override that whenever you pressed it. So it has advantages and disadvantages. As a warrior, I do find that it's okay if I pretty much set my focus and have that be my focus for the entire time. I nearly always just set my focus to the healer of the arena, and then I just sort of pay attention to my bars and pay attention to the arena to see if I need to stop casts on another target or reflect cast from another target. That's another reason why I think that's a good idea to use arena macros rather than just like a focus, but that's one of those things that I can improve on as a player. Even though, you know, I've been able to get Gladiator 6 times and play at 2800 rating, there's always room for improvement, and definitely looking to do that. But this is just a macro that I use for now, and you guys are more than welcome to check that out if you want to. So, moving on, we've got my charge macro. So this is a pretty basic charge macro that's going to work for a lot of different classes. You'll see that I have a lot of abilities in this macro that aren't something that Fury can use. That doesn't really interfere with the macro at all. It just makes it so that when I swap specs, I don't have to like do a whole different macro. So what this is going to do is it's going to charge. It's going to use like one of your main abilities. So for arms, it's Mortal Strike. It's going to cast Hamstring as well. If it's prod, it'll cast Shield Slam. It'll cancel your Bladestorm, so if you're Bladestorming and you wanted to cancel that and charge instantly, it'll do that. And then down here at the bottom, it'll cast Bloodthirst. And I don't know if it has some effect having them in different order. I don't really think it's that big of a deal because it does what it needs to do. It'll charge, or it'll cancel Bladestorm if you're Bladestorming. It'll charge, and then it'll hit him with a Mortal Strike, Shield Slam, Bloodthirst, you know, depending on what spec you are, and it'll also hamstring your target. So that's an easy one to press, you know, for your main ability and hamstring. We already mentioned the defensive stance one. This is our good old GSO macro. This one was mostly for playing prot, as you can see here. It would shield charge, shield slam, and heroic strike all at the same time. So that was a nice little chunk of burst damage while using your big either avatar or bloodbath along with your trinkets that you might have as well, your on-use trinkets. So that was more of a prot macro that I liked back in the day when I was playing some Glad stance. Haven't been playing a whole lot of prot recently, but if you guys do enjoy playing prot, there's a fun little macro that you could try out. Like I said, this is mostly for a Glad stance. You can see from the shield charge, but I think if you put shield block in there, it would do the same thing. But it doesn't really have the exact same effect, but it might be what you're looking for. So these are my healer Veen and partner Veen macros. They look very, very similar. They are something that will show the tooltip for intervene. It will cancel the Bladestorm if I was Bladestorming, like if I wanted to. In a lot of my macros that are like sort of instant things, I do have a cancel or a Bladestorm in there so that I can, you know, Bladestorm if I need to, but also immediately apply a safeguard or more likely a, I said safeguard, but apply an intervene or more likely a safeguard to my targets. And that would be /cast space a square bracket target equals whatever your healer's name is or whatever the target that you want to intervene is. Another square bracket at the end of that, no space, intervene. And I'll have these macros available for you guys. And one of the, just like a brief aside, it pays to learn how to write macros. You know, just to sort of understand what you're doing. So if any macro is ever going wrong, or if you wanted to try to make new macros, that would be something that's a lot of fun to do. You do have room for creativity in your macros, and it sort of enhances your gameplay, understanding how to not only control your class, but also how to change the way you control your class, which is pretty fun. So the macros are all pretty simple. I do recommend that you spend some time looking up. I'm not going to go super in-depth on how to write a macro, but once you sort of read through all these macros, understand how they work, you can have a lot of fun playing around with them. Make your own macros. Like this sort of thing. So this is my Rallying Cry. I just call it like an HP buff kind of thing. This isn't the one that you always want to use necessarily because it will change your shout to commanding shout, and sometimes you still want battle. But just keep that in mind. This will show the tooltip for Rallying Cry. It'll cast Rallying Cry. It'll also cast Battle Shout. It will use my Health Stone. It'll use any potion that I have. And it'll also drop down my Alliance Battle Standard. Now, this isn't something that's going to work in like Arena all the time because you can't have a Battle Standard in Arena, and you don't always want to change your shout. But if you're in a battleground and you just need absolutely as much HP as you can, or your friends do, you can give them a Rallying Cry, a Commanding Shout, and a Battle Standard, and that'll give you a lot of health and probably survive a pretty sticky situation potentially. So, moving on, this is another I'm calling it Heroic Strike and Revenge, but it's funny because it's showing Bloodthirst to me right now, because I'm pretty sure Heroic Strike turns into either Bloodthirst or Mortal Strike, just in terms of the coding, depending on which spec you go. So that's pretty funny. But this was another prot thing. This is charging. This is Heroic Striking, Revenging, and Shield Charging all at the same time. So this is another one of those Glad Stance burst macros. And I really did love Glad Stance, and maybe if I like level my EU warriors, I'll like play them as Glad Stance at level 100 just to mess around. But Glad Stance is not great right now. It's probably the 4th best thing you can do, unfortunately. But I do still have some macros for you guys if you wanted to play Glad Stance. I guess I called this my Arms and Fury macros video in the beginning there, but it is just for warrior macros in general, I suppose. So this is your partner Veen, pretty much the same thing as the healer Veen. You're just putting your partner's name in for the name slot right there. So you have your healer in this one, then you got your partner in this one. You're good to go. Same macro though. So Recklessness. This is my Recklessness that I use for Arms and Fury. You don't have the shield charge and all that stuff. All it's really gonna do for you is it's gonna cancel your Bladestorm if you're Bladestorming. And the reason why it's canceling your Bladestorm is if you scroll down here, sometimes a target gets really low and you want to cancel your Bladestorm and execute them. It'll also pop all your cooldowns as well, which is really nice for Fury because sometimes you want to pop cooldowns on a sudden death proc. So if that's actually another little tip for Fury is bursting with sudden death procs is the name of the game pretty much. You get your enrage up and you make sure that you're hitting really, really hard with sudden death. And this will allow you to do that. So it'll pop Avatar, pop Wreck. If you're using Bloodbath, it'll do that too. It'll use any unused trinkets you have, and it'll cast Execute for you as well. So that's a pretty sweet burst macro for Fury. One of the things you want to watch out for with the Arms is that with Arms, you kind of want to start your burst rotation with a Colossus smash. So keep that in mind. Sometimes if you're really close by, it'll drop your sudden death Execute on them before you use your Colossus smash or Mortal Strike. So that's one thing to look out for as Arms. So, you know, it sounds kind of weird, but maybe if you see a situation where you can pop cooldowns, maybe pop cooldowns during your charge rather than like when you're on the target. But just something to keep in mind. But with Arms though, you can pop this cooldown when they're in execute range, and you'll get some really nice crits. All right, this is a really old macro that I can probably just go ahead and delete right now because you can see it's equipped setting my shield. So this is just a relic macro that I'm actually going to delete right now. It has nothing to do with anything because you don't need to equip your shield right now. So reflect right now just works by pressing it. The only reason I would do anything like that is to cancel my Bladestorm and reflect, but that's not really something that I'm doing right now. Just because a lot of times with your Bladestorm, I mean, I'm trying to think if it would be an important thing to cancel your Bladestorm to reflect something like Mass Reflect for your healer, but honestly, that's just going to be a 2-button press versus a 1-button press, and I can definitely see situations where you wouldn't want to cancel your Bladestorm with a Spell Reflect, but I guess if you wanted to use that macro, you certainly could. All that would do is just a cancel or a Bladestorm / cast a Spell Reflection. So if you really like that macro, like, no, don't delete that, it's sick, you guys are more than welcome to use it. I don't mind doing a 2-key press. I think it saves me from being in awkward situations where I accidentally cancel my Bladestorm and then just get cloned or something. But anyway, this is Shattering Throw, another pretty standard stopping your Bladestorm and Shattering situation. Once again, this should be familiar to you by now. / cancel or a Bladestorm / cast Shattering Throw. Just one of those things to keep on your bar. I think pretty much all the time if I'm not using Shatter, just so I don't have to always rebind it whenever I want to use it. Alright, so this is just a basic shield charge macro for Glad Stance, or I would say or Prot, but you know, Prot doesn't have shield charge, so. But that's why you have shield block in there, just in case. So this is just going to use your shield charge or shield block, Heroic Strike, and Shield Slam at the same time. Whenever I play Prot, I really like that Unrelenting Strike spec where you get to spam Heroic Strike. That's a lot of fun. So you can essentially bind Heroic Strike into every single one of your abilities as Prot and be okay, which is pretty fun. This is my Shield Barrier. I called it Shield Wall. It's funny. It's Shield Barrier. It'll put you in defensive stance, use Shield Barrier, and use your Shieldtronic Shield or Stealth Man 55 or 54, which is pretty fun. It incorporates some engineering items into your defensive toolkit. So something to keep in mind for there. That's pretty neat, fun little macro. This macro right here, this is an old one. This is something that you don't really see used as often. Taunt is now kind of an important ability in terms of the way it forces you to swap stances, and we'll see a lot of macros involving that very soon. This one, like I said, this one doesn't do that, but it certainly could. This one is gonna it's gonna taunt all the pets. This is really a macro that I would only use this sort of setup right here. I use this a lot in Mists of Pandaria, but now I'd really only use that if I was playing Prot, because you want to keep your taunt available for swapping stances without a global cooldown. So I'll talk about that a little bit. This is a Victory Rush macro. Once again, it'll cancel your Bladestorm. If somebody bops you and you're really low health, but you really want a Victory Rush to live, then that'll cancel your Hand of Protection and cast a Victory Rush on the target. So say you get a nice killing blow with your Bladestorm, but you're only halfway through and you need to get that Victory Rush off. So you say cancel Bladestorm and Victory Rush. Pretty simple like that. Vigilance, this is a specific target for Vigilance. It works a lot like the Intervene macro. It'll give you one target, you're going to cast Vigilance on them, you're good to go. You put their name in there. If you know, no matter what, you're going to be Vigilancing this target, that's good to go. You can put like a tank in there or something. A lot of times I'll just use a mouse over Vigilance macro, and that's the kind of thing that we're going to get to in this next tab of macros right here. We're not done yet. Okay, this is kind of a strange macro. This isn't one that I have set on my warrior really, but it's one that you can use if you want to. It's just a Sweeping Strikes Whirlwind macro. It does what it sounds like it'll do. It'll cast Sweeping Strikes and it'll cast Whirlwind. It's kind of a fun way to AoE, you know, in battlegrounds or dungeons, but it also is like a really good way to just burn through your rage. In case you wanted to generate as much rage as possible, you have a cooldown coming back up pretty soon. You really want to use, you know, as much rage as you can. Sweeping Strikes Whirlwind is one way to do that. This is a cancelaura Pummel. So once again, these cancelaura macros, they're something that I incorporate into a lot of my buttons. Buttons that I'm not going to be accidentally pressing a whole lot, but Pummel, you know, if you're Bladestorming somebody and they're not expecting you to instantly cancel your Bladestorm and pummel them, this is a good way to catch them off guard. You know, hit them with a lockout on a heal or something, and maybe be able to score the kill off of that. So cancelaura Bladestorm Pummel, very, very nice macro. Something you might want to incorporate into your Pummel macro in general. There's no reason, you know, why not to, because if you want to pummel somebody in your Bladestorming, it's not going to work, so might as well have a cancelaura in there just to help yourself out. This is a Colossus Smash macro. Now this is one that's very interesting, and maybe one I should actually demonstrate, but this is going to cast Colossus Smash, which forces you into battle stance, but then it casts Taunt as well, which immediately puts you back in a defensive stance without ever incurring a global cooldown to do that for your defensive stance. So this is a macro that I don't always use for battlegrounds because I don't mind being in battle stance for BGs, but in arena as an arms warrior, especially if you're taking damage, you know, from the enemy team, if you're being focused by the enemy team, staying in defense stance is a pretty good idea. So you're using your 4-piece set bonus as a warrior to generate rage while taking damage. So you're still generating a little bit of rage, but this also prevents you from getting caught in battle stance. You know, if you're not expecting a swap or something like that. But like I said, you don't always want to use this necessarily, because sometimes it's fun to be in battle stance, and you don't want to be forced into defensive stance every time you use Colossus Smash. So something to keep in mind, but it is a very nice macro, because keep in mind, Taunt, like I mentioned earlier, is an ability that allows you to go defensive stance without incurring a global cooldown. So you can put Taunt on a lot of different things, because it is off GCD, and it'll allow you to stay in defense stance as a warrior, or as an arms warrior, without having to worry about a global cooldown as much. It doesn't take as long to swap stances, because one of the big complaints for arms warriors is, you know, using certain abilities forces you into stances, and that makes you squishy. So this is one of those things that sort of helps alleviate that problem. This is not important for us. Some of these macros are like Bajheera macros, which is funny. This is just a Devastate Heroic Strike macro. I mentioned earlier that sometimes when you play Unrelenting Strikes, you can literally macro Heroic Strike into everything, and that's just one of those macros that you can do that. This is my BM macro. This is where I execute somebody and I drop all 3 of the flags that I have. The Flag of Ownership, the Flag of Victory, and the Alliance Flag of Victory. That's the kind of macro that I expect to see in the chat when I ask you guys for your unique macros. That's the kind of thing I expect to see. Executing somebody and dropping every flag that you have on them. So sometimes I'll put this in my bar if I'm doing battlegrounds, and I'll forget to take it out, and then I'll start flagging people in arena and I feel terrible. But anyway, that's kind of a fun one. This is a Focus Charge, Focus Sphere macro. A lot of you guys asked me about that. See, you see I have a space in here. It's not that big of a deal if you have a space or not, I don't think. But what this allows me to do is, without targeting my focus, you know, I already have him focus targeted. In arena, you know, if there's like a healer, I'm attacking one target, and I want to fear the healer, I just press this button twice, I'll charge over there, and then as soon as I get in range, I can fear them as well. So that's like a 2-press button, but you can just spam it and you'll charge and fear, which is a really nice macro. I've been using that for a long time. That's one of the ones that's really a nice one to learn to use. Focus targets, like I said, I think arena targets are the best way to do it, but as a warrior especially, learning how to use your focus targets and focus sphere, focus charge, focus pummel, all those are important things for you to learn how to do. And those will greatly help your gameplay, especially if you're just getting started. And if you're not just getting started, you know, definitely still want to practice your focus awareness and your focus abilities. But also, like I said, I think transitioning into Arena 1, 2, 3 and just using abilities on Arena 1, 2, 3 is a really good way to do it. This is, speaking of focus abilities, this is my Focus Stormbolt. Works the same way. I can be targeting one thing and just focus chuck a Stormbolt right at the enemy healer, and that'll give me a little bit of a CC window to do some damage or line up CC for my partners. So this is, once again, a good shit on macro. This is pretty much the same thing as I had before. It's just I have a Blood Fury in there in case I was playing my Horde Warrior RIP Bajheera's. He is now Alliance, so might not need that one anymore. This is just a Hearthstone, or it doesn't matter, Hearthstone, a Healthstone macro. Instead of binding it to your keyboard, only, or binding it to your bar only when you have a Healthstone in your bags, you can just go ahead and make this macro right here and pull that on your bar, and whenever you get a Healthstone, you'll be good to go. This is mouse over intervene, which is nice for battlegrounds when you want to intervene something, but you don't really want to click on it, and you don't really want to have to set a macro that limits your ability to only target your friends. Having a nice little cancel aura in there as well. Is target equals, instead of their name, it's mouse over, which means that whenever you just hover your mouse over somebody and press this button, you'll intervene to them without ever detargeting what you want to attack. So this is nice for closing distance between you and an opponent in a battleground. Like if you need to catch up somebody, you can heroic leap, mouse over intervene, and then charge to catch a flag carrier or something like that. That's something to keep in mind. This is a mocking Veen, mocking banner intervene macro that still works for prot, but doesn't really have anything to do with Arms of Fury, unfortunately, but it works really the same as the other ones. This is the kind of thing where I'm just going to go ahead and put that in the description for you. You guys can copy and paste it as you want. This is Mount Special. This is something that Jenny made to troll me. She it makes my mount, and then it yells, "I am a butterfly." So that is not something that's necessary for your warrior gameplay, but you can certainly include that if you want to. This is a Mortal Strike macro. This works the same way as my Bloodthirst macro. It just whenever I press Mortal Strike, it will set my focus. Now I have the little 2 backslashes in front of that because I don't want this to be setting a focus for me all the time in battlegrounds. I want to be able to set my own focus in BGs. But for arena, you just take this 1 backslash out. Every time you press Mortal Strike, it would set your focus to whichever one you want. Whether they're the first, second, or third person in the arena, that's the corresponding number that you put if you want to set that target as your focus. This is a Mortal Strike Taunt. This is from Miss of Pandaria. This is another one of those macros that I can just straight up delete because you don't want to be taunting every time you press Mortal Strike. That's really annoying, and it confused the heck out of me when I first started playing. I was like, what is going on? And then I realized. But the Colossus Smash Taunt one is still good. Or that's right up here, I suppose. This one, not so much. I'm probably just going to delete that one because I do have this sort of set up for prot if I wanted it, but I can go ahead and delete that now. That is an Obliterate macro, not really important for warriors. Let's see what else. Oh, this is whenever I'm recording a video, I can press this button, and so when you guys whisper me, you guys don't hate me. So these are not super important. This is a fun macro right here. Sexecute is what I call it. This is super fun for battlegrounds, super fun for arenas sometimes. One of the things you need to watch out for. Oh, I guess I can explain the macro first. This is a Sweeping Strikes, but it will also cast Execute. So whenever you obviously want to execute a target, anything that's close by it, when you activate Sweeping Strikes, will also get hit for like half the damage of the Execute, which can sometimes even kill them if there's 2 low targets, or if you're going to hit a pet, like somebody's pretty low, you can execute their pet, and you can cleave some damage to them, and even a Sweeping Strikes Execute, which is 50% less damage, still really hurts, especially if it crits. So the Sexecute button is extremely fun in battlegrounds and can even be effective in arenas as well. One of the things that you need to keep in mind about this particular macro is that execute damage is based off the amount of rage you have at the time. So if you're already at pretty low rage and you decide to cast Sweeping Strikes, which costs rage as well, it's going to make your execute not hit quite as hard, but a lot of times you'll still kill your target with the execute and you'll cleave some damage. So I love getting like these double kills in BGs where I execute one target and it kills the target next to him with the Sweeping Strikes. That just is so much fun. And this is probably, it's a simple macro, but it's got to be one of my favorites because it's just so much fun. All right, this is another Shatter. This other one that might have been a Focus Shattering throw. No, it's actually just the exact same macro. All right, cool. I have that bound twice. I'm going to go ahead and delete that one there. I'm glad we're experiencing this so we can clear out our macros a little bit. Ah, this is another really fun one. I actually have Siegebreaker in all caps when it casts the macro. That's funny. This is my Siegebreaker macro. This will pop Avatar, Wreck, Bloodbath on Siegebreaker. And of course cast Siegebreaker as well. So this is the kind of thing that if a target's pretty low and you just want to hit, one-shot them from, 20% health or 30% health, maybe they're not in execute range, you don't have a sudden death proc as Fury, but you want to hit him really hard, you can pop all your cooldowns and hit Siege Breaker, because Siege Breaker does okay damage on its own, but you pretty much want to always have some scaling damage on there, so you can pop people with Siege Breaker, and that's the macro that I use. It looks a lot like my Recklessness macro, or sorry, well, this is a Recklessness macro, but instead of Execute at the bottom, it has Siege Breaker, so that's cool to know. Alright, that is an extra action button. That's not warrior specific. This is just, this is a cancel aura sweeping strikes. So, say if you're playing with a character or a partner in arena that uses CC that breaks on damage, you don't want to just go in there with sweeping strikes up and just start cleaving everybody because you'll break the CC. So this is a chance for you, this is a macro that you can use to cancel your sweeping strikes to avoid that situation. Obviously, when you're playing arms, maybe you don't want to play with somebody like for KFC or what, WMD. So that KFC is Hunter Warrior Healer. WMD is Warrior Mage Healer, or Warrior Mage whatever. You can cancel your sweeping strikes if you want to play arms with that, but I usually play Fury with both of those. That's just because Fury doesn't really have that problem of accidentally AoEing, but if you wanted to, that's how you do it. Let's see. This is a throw macro. This is going to use Heroic Throw, use my normal throw, but I don't think Warriors even have throw anymore, I'm not sure. And it'll also use my G1 or G91 Land Shark. This is an older macro, but it is kind of fun to Heroic Throw and fire off a rocket at somebody at the same time. I could probably put the new rockets in there as well if you wanted to. That's probably would be a good idea, actually. Alright, and these last two macros, not very exciting. These are Party 1 Vigilance and Party 2 Vigilance. Vigilance is an ability that I haven't really used a whole lot, but sometimes it's really nice in arena, especially when you're fighting Feral Druids or any sort of class that's going to do just unreasonable amounts of burst about every 2 minutes or so. You can use Vigilance on your party members, whether it's Party 1 or Party 2, to sort of keep them alive. And those macros behave a lot like the name macros, but instead of the names, you're saying target equals Party 1 or target equals Party 2, and that sort of helps your teammates survive. But that's going to actually round up all of my warrior macros that I'm using right now. Like I said, I've made a few updates, but nothing too crazy, I don't think. There are definitely more macros than this that you can use if you wanted to. I do recommend you guys learning how to use Arena 1, 2, 3 macros. That's something that that I definitely need to work on. But so far, you know, just using my normal awareness and focus macros, I've been able to do fairly well in PvP. And I definitely think that you guys can as well. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's informative to you guys, even if it's just been sitting here talking about macros. I know some of you guys like that kind of thing. Definitely been a lot of questions about my macros. Hopefully this clears some stuff up. But anyways, guys, like I said, thank you so much for watching. Best of luck on the giveaway. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up, leave me a comment, subscribe, and share this video for your chance at a Corsair Scimitar MMO gaming mouse. With that, it's going to bring us to the end of this video. Like I said, thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you guys next time, and peace!